StrayAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unified philosophy that is called work on your game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is, we are starting what will be a 3-part series on the different ways to do your homework. Yes, the different ways to do your homework. You thought homework was over because you graduated from school 10 years ago or 20 years ago. Well, I'm here to inform you that homework did not end. Before we get into that, I'm going to remind you of 2 things. Daily motivation and Monday motivation text messages guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point to start your day or your week, respectively. All you got to do to get those is be a member of my texting community. I'll give you the number. It is 305-384-6894. Once we start sending those messages again, you will be getting those messages straight to your phone, straight from me, straight from my fingers into my phone, to your phone, to your eyeballs, and to your brain. And again, once we start sending messages again. So if you text me right now, you're not going to get a response. But once we start sending it again, our bot will update everybody, let everybody know it's coming, and then you'll be getting a message straight from me moving forward. You'll even be able to exchange messages with me because I do read my responses and engage with people there. Again, coming soon. Next, Work on Your Game University. That's the place where I do all my coaching. You'll like to work with me directly. I work with top 2% performers, people who are looking to join the top 2% of what you do, or those of you who are already there. Those are the people who I want to deal with. So if you're one of those people, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. You are the type of person who we are and have been looking for. Again, workonyourgameuniversity.com. With that out the way, let's get into the topic here again today. I already told y'all this is going to be a 3-part series. So this is the start of a 3-part series. And again, the topic is the different ways that you can do your homework. So we talked about homework back in episode 1925. And I explained homework as the work that you can do ahead of time before the work that you know you will need to do tomorrow. So in this 3-part series, I'm going to explain the different ways to do homework. And the more of these you are able to implement in your life, the better prepared you will be, the more professional your work will be, the more at ease that you will be and at peace you will be before you get into situations in life that will require performance and delivery, because you already did the work ahead of time. Like, the work's already been done. You have no reason to be nervous when it's time to perform because you already did the work. So make sure you are using these and checking yourself accordingly against everything I'm going to share to make sure you're already doing these and holding yourself accountable if you're not doing them, or coming to workonyourgameuniversity.com so you can have me help you get accountable to making sure these things are happening consistently. Point number 1, topic once again is the first of a 3-part series, different ways to do your homework. Number 1, get access to better insights and better information. If you want to do your homework better, get better insights and better information. So what I mean by this is, don't get more insight and more information. Get better insight and better information. Better information does not mean go read 10 more books. You might just need to read 1 book, just a different one than the one you've been reading. It's not more information, it's better information. So it means you need to be more discerning about from where you are getting your information, what you are using that information for, and how you are implementing it. See, all of that is part of getting better insight and better information. Where are you getting your info? What are you using it for? And are you implementing it? And how are you implementing it? All of this, folks, are things that come with having the right coach or trainer or teacher or mentor around you. Because if you're trying to do this all on your own, it's inevitable that you're going to make mistakes because you don't know what you don't know. And this is the mistake that most people make. Trying to do everything on their own, there are knowledge gaps that you have, ignorance gaps, as I call them sometimes. And ignorance simply meaning not to know. And if you don't fix those ignorance gaps, then you're going to keep making the same ignorance-based mistakes. And the challenge of making ignorance-based mistakes, because some people will say, well, Dre, I'm just failing forward. I'm just going to keep failing. And failure is just the key to success. And I'm only one more failure closer to getting to the success that I want to get. While I don't deny that in theory, here's the challenge with that theory, is that every time you make another mistake and fail your way forward, so to speak, it's still costing you time, which is your most valuable resource. And your time is not unlimited, which means the more failures you have, the more time it is costing you. And eventually you will run out of time to spend on failure. So you can't keep spending time on failure. Eventually you don't have any more time to spend. This is why it makes more sense to spend your other resources on getting access to people who will preclude the failure, who will basically circumvent the failure by helping you with the insights and the information that you don't have to go get on your own through trial and error. This is what smart people do. This is what wise people do. This is what the most successful people do. This is the reason why they're so successful, not because they are so smart or hardworking. They are just about as smart as you, same level of intelligence, same level of effort as you. The difference is they use their intelligence and effort in a different way than you use yours. See, you use yours to try to do everything by yourself. They use theirs to get access to other people's brains where they know they are getting a higher return on investment if they did everything on their own. Because again, as I just told you, these people are not any smarter than you are. They're just using their resources differently than how you use your resources. And that's the difference in outcomes. So when I say better insights and better information, this is what I mean. Doesn't mean you need to go get smarter. See, that's the wrong answer to the wrong question. It means you need to go access someone who is already smarter. All right, so you don't have to do the work of getting knowledge. No need for you to do that. That's extra work you don't need to do. There's no reason for you to do that work. Okay? Insight, ladies and gentlemen, is about asking the right questions and getting the right information, not more questions or more information, the right questions and the right information. This goes against the grain of the way many people think and the way many of you were taught, including myself. Many of us were taught that in order to get smarter, we just had to do more, harder, longer, put in more time. That's not true. What makes you smarter is having the right questions and then getting the answers to the right questions rather than asking more questions, working harder, or putting in more time. You could actually, when you have the right insights, do less work and give less effort and produce a much higher level of result and much more of it. The challenge for many people in doing this is that it goes against the grain of everything you've been taught and everything you've been doing for the last 30 years, which makes it very uncomfortable for people to do. They just feel it just feels uncomfortable to do it. And this is the reason why most people go back to the default of what they've been taught their entire lives. This is the reason why many people literally work themselves to death. See, you got to know when to use which information and when not to use it, given the circumstance in front of you. These changes alone could be the most important homework that you do, especially if you already have a foundational baseline of fundamental abilities. If you already have a foundational baseline of fundamental abilities and you understand the principles of the thing that you're doing, then this is your breakthrough key, what I'm telling you here in point number 1. So I would suggest you rewind this back to the beginning and listen to the whole thing all over again. Now, if you do not have foundational baseline abilities, you don't have your principles in place yet, go get those first, and then you can move up to the next level. All right, 80% of people in business, for example, do not have fundamentals. They don't understand the principles or the fundamentals of the business that they're in, but they are actively doing business. So what I'm referring to in here in point number 1 are for people who are in the 20%. You already have the fundamentals down and you already understand the principles of what you do. If you don't, again, this point is not for you yet. When you get there, then you come back to this point. Point number 2, today's topic, once again, is in many ways you can do your homework. Number 2, doing the work before the work. We just talked about this in episode number 2944. It's literally titled the thing before the thing. So what is the work that you could do now that will make the work coming up in the future easier for you? For example, today when I got on our CRM, which is our customer relationship management software, it's just a place that basically is like a online Rolodex that holds all the information of the business contacts you've been talking to, the stage of the conversation, what was the last conversation, when was the last email sent, who were the people you need to contact, all their information, etc. I was on the CRM today making calls. I made about 35 phone calls this afternoon before I got around to recording the show. And the fact that I was able to make those 35 phone calls is supported by, or the reality of those 35 phone calls is supported by the fact that the information was already entered into the CRM by my staff. And I already knew exactly who I needed to call and who not to call. I knew what the last interaction was. I knew who I was reaching out to. I knew exactly what I was going to say to them if they answer or what I was going to leave in a message if they didn't answer. That's because of all the work that was done before I started picking up the phone. You see, if I had to go gather all the information before I made a phone call, instead of making 35 calls, maybe I only would have made maybe 5 to 10 phone calls because I would have had to do all this information gathering in between every call. But since the information gathering is already systematized to where it's already being done, and I don't have to think about doing that. All I got to do is just go call. I'm just going back-to-back phone calls. Then I don't have to worry about that. That's the work before the work. See, this could be something as simple as what I just laid out. That it could be simple, could be a little bit more complicated, but laying out your clothes the night before so you don't need to take time or energy to think about what you're going to wear tomorrow. If you know you're going to go to the gym first thing tomorrow morning, well, lay out your gym clothes and everything you need to wear to get to the gym. Lay it out tonight so that tomorrow you don't have to make a decision about what to wear. That saves you energy. It's the work before the work. It could also be something as serious as if you have a big sales presentation coming up in 3 months, you can start preparing yourself for that conversation right now by doing all the research you need to do about whoever you're going to be selling to, so you can make sure you all have all that information gathered and ready way before you even get into the sales conversation. So you're not rushing at the last minute when it's time to have the presentation. You see, every professional shows themselves by how prepared they are for a task that they know they need to do. Anytime you see a professional doing something that you know that they knew rather, before they did it, that they were going to be doing it, they knew ahead of time that this was coming, see how prepared they are. And if a professional shows up somewhere unprepared for something that you know that they knew they were going to be doing, then you know they're not a true professional. And you probably shouldn't do business with that person. My suggestion, don't do business with them. You ever see the TV show Shark Tank? Any of you who has not seen the show, if you are an entrepreneur or plan to be one, you should be watching the show, because it's a great way to, in an entertaining way, also get educated and informed about business. And there are many things that are not spelled out by the people on the show, but I'm going to spell out one of them for you here. When people go on the TV show Shark Tank, and I know people who have been on Shark Tank, when people go on that show, they know way ahead of time that they're going to be on Shark Tank. They know that they're going to get grilled in front of all these millionaire and billionaire investors about their businesses who might actually invest in their business. They know that this is coming, and they know exactly which questions usually get asked, because all you got to do is go look at previous episodes of the show and you can see what questions they always ask. And then still, here's what happens. Sometimes people get all the way to Shark Tank. They have filled out the forms, they've done all the audition tapes, they did all this stuff. They got to the point that they're actually in the studio filming the show in Hollywood, and they are unprepared. If you ever watch the TV show Shark Tank, this happens. How do you get all the way to being on damn Shark Tank and you're unprepared? How does that happen? And they usually show those as kind of like, goofs and like bloopers, because they record much more than they actually put out. And if you don't know, some inside stories I got about Shark Tank is that sometimes when those people are standing there and they're being grilled by the sharks, that those conversations can go on for an hour and a half, but they only show you like 15 minutes for the TV show. So they cut a lot of it out for dramatic purposes. But the point is, how can you show up all the way to Shark Tank knowing that you had this opportunity to get an investment in your business that might change everything, and you're unprepared? There were two guys who got a deal on Shark Tank. I forget what their company was, but this is years ago. They got a deal, successfully got an investor on Shark Tank. And they went and got post-show interviewed by some podcast that focused on entrepreneurship. And the host of the show asked these two entrepreneurs, what did they do to prepare for their Shark Tank appearance? You know what they said? They said, we went and watched every episode in the history of Shark Tank up until that point, and we wrote down every single question that any of the sharks had ever asked anybody who ever came into the Shark Tank. We wrote down every question that ever had been asked ever in the history of the show. And we made sure that we rehearsed our answers to every single possible question. So when we got into the Shark Tank, any question that got asked of us was something that had been asked before, and we were fully prepared for it. Now, let me ask you a question. What's stopping you from doing that in your line of work? What's stopping you from doing it? What's stopping you from writing down every question that somebody asks you, figuring out the answer to the question, preparing your answer to the question, how you would answer that verbally, and then the next time somebody asks a question, you're already ready with the answer? What's stopping you from doing it? What's stopping you from finding out what those questions are? Professional. This is the question I'm asking you. Every professional shows themselves by how prepared they are for a task that you know that they knew was coming. So if you plan on being a professional, or you are actively calling yourself a professional, you should always be considering what you could be doing to make the work that you are going to do tomorrow easier by what you do today. This is called homework. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, are different ways you can do homework. This is part 1 of a 3-part series. Number 3, acquiring the right tools. What tools would help you do your job better? What tools, if you had them, would help you do your job better? In this sense, again, this can mean literally. One of our current university members, for example, he may be listening to this episode. He has an auto detailing business. He goes and cleans people's cars inside and out. And he shared how for his business, there's certain equipment that would allow him to serve more clients and finish more jobs faster, which will allow him to make more money. That is a form of getting better tools so he can do his job. That's an example of a better tool. Another example is a few weeks ago, from the time you're hearing this, will be a few months ago, my assistant came to me because we have a task in our business that she is responsible for lead sourcing, or actually adding leads. I actually source the leads. I find the leads, I just put them all into a document, or I send them to her via email, and she knows what to do with them by getting them into the CRM and going and finding all the information of certain people who we need to contact, phone numbers, email addresses, names, job titles, etc. She knows how to do all that stuff. And I told her that the biggest challenge in the business is searching for and finding the leads. But one day she came to me, and this was I did not tell her to do this, but she had went and did it on her own volition. She went and found a tool that allowed us to search and find certain types of people and companies and leads and opportunities much easier than the way that we had been doing it. She did it on her own volition. That was a form of a tool. Now that tool costs money, but I was willing to invest in it because it would save us a ton of time. So I was willing to use money to buy time. You follow? That's what tools do. Tools allow you, when a tool needs to be paid for, and most tools that will really save you time, usually they cost money and they are worth money. That's why they charge for them. They allow you to use your money in buying the tool to save time, because the tool will help you save time and get the job done better. A car is a tool that you pay money for that saves you time. Because instead of walking across town and taking an hour, you can drive across town and it takes you 10 minutes. All right, is it worth it? I would think so. So this is a form of getting a better tool. If you're an athlete, for example, maybe you need access to a facility so you can train with the right equipment. That's a tool. If you are a podcaster, you probably need recording software. All right, is that a tool? Of course it is. Or a microphone. All right, that is a tool. The work that you do or the resources that you acquire in order to better position yourself to get your tools is part of your homework and is also your responsibility. Let me say that sentence again, because some of you are listening to this and you are agreeing with what I'm saying. Like, yes, Dre, there are certain tools that would help me do my business better. The problem is those tools cost X number of dollars and I don't have X number of dollars, so I can't get access to the tool. What I'm telling you is that the work that you do that will get you the money that will allow you to buy those tools is your responsibility. So I know you don't have the money. Okay, you don't have the money right now. All right. There are things that work on your game, things that I would invest in business-wise if we had the resource allocation to invest in. In other words, there are things we will invest in when the resources are freed up financially to invest in those things. Big things that we want to invest more money in that will help us expand operations, serve more people, and do better business. And it's my responsibility to make sure that we go get the money that will allow us to make those investments. Not just to sit there and say, that would be great if we had that. Let me just daydream about it. No, that's not what we're doing. You need to go get them. You need to go get the resources so you can do it, so you can solve the problem. That's the point. Entrepreneur, your job is to solve problems. Professional, your job is to solve problems. The more problems you solve, the more money you make. And the more important the problems are that you solve, the more money you can command. This is the way business works. So what I'm trying to do here is flip your mindset around this stuff. So that's your homework. Your homework is, okay, I need this amount of money to solve this problem. Okay, let me go get the money. That's the homework, for you to go get the money. Do whatever it is you do that makes money happen. All right, and then use it to go get that thing. You're a professional. What you do, you take ownership of this responsibility. As professionals, you take ownership of everything. You do not tell yourself or others that because you don't have access to the resources, then things are just not going to get done. I just got to work with what I have. No, bullshit. Work with better things. Why would you work with tools that don't work? That doesn't make any sense. Work with tools that do work. Okay, you need to get tools that do work. Okay, those tools cost money. Okay, you don't have money. Okay, go get money. That's your responsibility. That is your job. Is anybody unclear on this? Good. Let's recap today's class. This is part 1 of 3. Different ways to do your homework. Again, we talked about homework in episode 1925. If you haven't heard it yet. Point number 1, better insights and information. Better, not more. Better insights and information means getting access to information or insights from someone or something that knows things that you don't know and can see things from an angle from which you cannot see things. That's your job. That is your responsibility. If you are not doing that yet, it's your responsibility to go get it. Don't just keep getting more information, and don't just keep trying to go off of what you know, because you don't know everything. You don't have to know everything. You just got to know people who know things. Point number 2, the work before the work. What can you do now that will set you up to make things easier for you in the future? Again, think about if you were on Shark Tank and you got to present your business. Are you ready for the questions that the sharks might ask? And do you have answers to those questions? And if you don't, then I doubt you're going to get an investment from anybody who looks at you as an unprepared professional. All right, that's like an oxymoron. No such thing as an unprepared professional. If you're unprepared, you're not a professional. You're an amateur. And number 3, acquiring the right tools. What tools will help you do your job better? You need to know what tools will help you do your job better, even if you cannot get them right now because you don't have the resources. and then make the decision that you're going to go get the resources so you can get those tools. Don't just keep working with dull, beat up, useless tools just because that's all you have. Instead, tell yourself, I'm going to get the resources to get the tools that will actually help me move forward. All right, that is the decision that you make, and then you get resourceful in figuring out how you're going to go do that. That's the mindset you need to have. That said, text me to be in my text community, and when we start sending messages out again, you get them. Numbers down below in the description. Also, workonyourgameuniversity.com. You want to work with me directly and start working on getting these things and applying these things and putting these into use, implementing in your business. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Tomorrow we'll get into part 2 of the series. Work on your game. Dre, all